All right, so welcome back, ladies. Thank you for rejoining me. Wanted to get through again a few more points here before we break for the day. And again, I think the most helpful way of trying to go through this stuff is put your research focus in question into some of these frames that we're going to go through. Keep in mind, just as a review, that in research and just in studying a different phenomena that you are looking at in any human behavior period, it's very rare, Deja, that anything only happens for one reason, that anything ever happens for only one reason. There are usually many different factors for why something may happen. So even though, like we said, that education can be like related to your income, we also talked about that race can play a factor. White, again, whites are often paid more for than blacks for doing the same work. Your gender can play a role. Your men are generally paid more than women for doing the same work. If you got a disability, that can play a role. So there are many different factors that can impact, where your income ends up. And there are many different factors that explain almost any social issue you can think of. Whether it be, again, juvenile delinquency, where many people think that, it's only associated with single parent households. But as me and Deja had explained, income can also play a role. Education level, again, like, a single parent with a master's degree that's making, six figures is going to be a bit different than your average single parent household, your average single parent female headed household. So it's really important to understand all of these factors. And what you're trying to do in much of your research is explain which factors are the strongest, because there are some factors sometimes on the child that are stronger than others. With idiographic, that just means again that we're trying to kind of look at the research from the perspective of the people that we're studying. And then with nomothetic, we're looking at the relationship between variables and whether or not they correlate or not. Correlation, again, explores an empirical relationship between these two variables, where when you see one change in one variable, such as your income, such as your weight, such as whether or not you got a criminal record, that if you got a criminal record, that's a variable that can impact your job prospects. So yeah, when you see a change in one, it sees a change in another. A spurious relationship, again, is where there's still, you might see a change between these two variables, but they may not necessarily be related. Again, some examples of factual correlation that we talked about that has been observed many times, that smoking marijuana is correlated with boosting appetite. That's one of, in all seriousness, with medicinal marijuana, that's one of the reasons why some, cancer and AIDS patients use it. A lot of times, especially if you're going on the chemo and stuff like that, like it stifles your appetite. So marijuana sometimes, can help it because you got to eat to still maintain your health. And that's one of the ways that they utilize, that physicians utilize it. The lower the personal income, the lower the life expectancy. So again, keep all these different examples in mind. Because there are some times where, again, we make correlations or we try and explain relationships that don't necessarily relate. So we can see, for example, that it probably is not very logical that the higher your shoe size goes, the higher your math skills go. That, say, for example, we look at a kid and we measure him from the first grade until he gets out of high school. We measure his shoe size and we measure his math scores. Both of those things are going to increase over time, more than likely, correct? So does that mean that shoe size causes or is correlated with higher math scores? And listen to those wordings, the wording diamond. Correlate, 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 correlate. Causation is different, and we'll talk about that probably next week. Causation is different, and causation is very difficult to prove. Why? And make sure you're listening again, because there's so many different factors that explain anything. So it's always hard to say this caused this to happen. It's like, no, these factors caused this to happen. So it's very rare that we can point and say that this is the one thing that's causing all of this. This is one of the dangers with COVID, for example, because again, there are a lot of people making conclusions and there's just so much that we just don't know yet. So it doesn't seem like it makes much sense that shoe size is correlated with how, that again, that somehow, like if I could just increase my shoe size, then my math skills would get better. No. What we see here is that age is the variable corresponding with both. I'm sorry. That age is the variable corresponding with both. As you get older, your shoe size goes up. As you get older, usually your math skills go up. Keep this in mind because, again, people may experience relationships like this all the time. Oftentimes based upon because you're black these days happen, because you're, no, it's like, it may be, it's not because I'm black. It may be because I'm black, I'm poor and undereducated. These things may happen. But just being black is not going to cause these things. Keep this in mind. Like even when I talk about the rate of diabetes and hypertension, black people are at a higher risk for these things, no question. But there are other variables that go beyond that. Again, your income, your education level, where you live can have a huge impact upon all those things. Keep this stuff in mind, black people, because some of those variables you can. Because I say this, Nashaya, because you can't. You aren't going to be able to change that variable of being black. Well, maybe you can. You could get your Michael Jackson on or something like that. You know, I'm not sure how many of y'all are familiar with the baseball player Sammy Sosa. Do a Google search on Sammy Sosa when you get out of class and do Sammy Sosa 1998 and Sammy Sosa 2020. Where in 1998, Deja, his complexion was like yours. Now he looked like Drake. I'm exaggerating, but you know, just barely. But in all seriousness, you ain't gonna be able to change the variable of being black. You're born black, you're gonna die black. But there are other variables, Latasia, that you can change. You can change your income level. You can change your education level. You can change your health habits. So again, spurious correlation, that's the opposite, again, of actual correlation, where we see the change in one variable is related to change in another. So we see, for example, that ice cream sales go up in the summer. That's true. Crime goes up in the summer. So this means that ice cream causes crime to go up. We need to stop selling ice cream. If we stop selling ice cream, then the crime rate will go down. And that sounds ridiculous, right? But this is what happens, Deja, when we do bad science. When we do bad science, we come up with bad solutions. Think about this again. How many of y'all are criminal justice majors? So Deja, we do this all the time with criminal justice. We have bad explanations for why crime occurs, and we throw bad solutions at it. So one theory, for example, is that crime was getting out of control because we were too soft on crime. That's when we got into 25 for life, 3 strikes you out, and all that. That sounds really good. That sounds like a really great solution. If we're tough on the criminals, that'll stop crime. It's not what happened. Instead, you know, it ruined a lot of people's lives who were not necessarily like, you know, violent, dangerous criminals. Do your own research on that, Deja, but there's a lot of evidence to support this. Again, when we have bad information, we come up with bad solutions. The HIV rate is higher amongst the LGBT community. So that means that being gay causes HIV, right? And if you're straight, you ain't got to worry about HIV. You can just get your freak on without any worry, concern. It's all good. That's the gay disease, right? This sounds ridiculous now, but when AIDS and HIV first, like, you know, came on the scene in the 1980s, this is some of the information that was like, you know, promulgated. Does anybody, like, again, so when it first came out, do your own research on this, but it's the truth. They called it gay cancer. It was believed that only gay people could get it. A lot of people like Eazy-E and Magic Johnson later found out that wasn't the case. I don't like when Magic got it, people begin to wonder, is he gay? Like no, heterosexual people can get it too. You don't get it from kissing people. You don't get it from shaking hands. Again, these are some of the things that people believe in the 1980s. Do your own research if you believe I'm making it up. People still believe these things now. Now, again, it can be more pronounced in the homosexual community, especially amongst gay men, because like not to get too technical, but it's easily transmitted through anal sex. However, you can get it again through drug use, through heterosexual sex, yes, even through oral sex, motherfuckers. So again, you know, having factual information is important. There are a lot of violent images projected through American movies, TV shows, music, and video games. It's these violent images that cause America to be more violent. And again, empiricism allows us to observe, usually through numbers, and we can see there are more murders, there are more rapes committed in America than most countries in the world, almost every country in the world. The solution to this, obviously, Nashai, is that we gotta censor the video games, the TV shows, and the movies, right? If we do that, that'll cause violence to go down, right? Do y'all think they got some of these movies and TV shows in Switzerland and Japan and Norway and the Philippines? Y'all think they got some of that stuff over there? You think they playing Grand Theft Auto? Yes, they are. Again, when we have bad factual information, we have bad solutions. It's not these things that is causing the violent crime. Again, all of these movies and TV shows, everybody's seeing across the world. But a kid growing up in Indonesia can play this really violent video game, Deja, and decide not to go up and shoot up a school. I had a really bad day after seeing a black cat. That means that black cats cause bad luck, right? No, of course not. But how many of y'all have been running across the street like a goofy when you've seen a black cat before? Because some white people have told you some foolishness thousands of years ago. There's no relationship between these things whatsoever. But again, people will make bad decisions off of bad information. That is why it's so vital to me that your research design is tight so that you don't be putting no bad information out here to the public. Are there any questions so far? If you find, Diamond, that there is no difference between male and single parent households, you need to say that in the research. Your goal is not to prove your hypothesis right. Your goal is not to prove your hypothesis right. Your goal is not to prove your hypothesis right. This is what conspiracy theorists do, where because I don't want to believe in COVID, I'm going to ignore all the facts or only use the facts that support what I believe. And I'm not saying you got to believe in COVID. You are entitled to believe whatever foolishness you want to believe about anything. There are people out here, Diamond, who actually believe in their head that LeBron is better than Michael Jordan somehow. They're entitled to that idiotic, foolish, psychotic belief if they want it. Well, we in the scientific world, though, I try not to get into belief. I don't care about what you believe. It's people that believe Barack Obama was not born in America. It's people that believe that Donald Trump won the election. We want to go with what we know. Also, within this, with this in mind, Ashaya, one of the things that human beings have a great amount of trouble doing for some reason that I want to dissuade you all from is being able to say, I don't know. There are so many things that as much research as we do, Diamond, there's so many things that we don't know. It is okay to say that. So as it relates to COVID, for example, this may not always be satisfactory, but there are some things that, the answer right now is, I don't know. Hey, how is this going to, once you get over COVID, are there going to be any long-term effects of this? It just happened last year. The answer to that right now, I don't know. Now, what we can do, Deja, is we can look at research on other similar illnesses and see how those have, impacted people over time. That might give us some clues. But there's still so much in the world that we just don't know about, and it'll be your task to help us find out. Now, hypothesis testing is not required in nomothetic research. But if you are testing a hypothesis, and most of you all are, here's the steps you want to be able to take. And again, when the comments I gave y'all in y'all paper, we're really focusing in on this. So most of y'all have done this already. First off, Diamond, you got to specify the variables that you think are related. The variables that you think are related are female or male structured households. The variables that you think are related to depression, Latasia, are being raised in a traditional family versus an adopted family, that you believe that there's a relationship between that and how the children develop. The trickiest, one of the more challenging parts is, and this is one of the things that we're going to talk about in subsequent weeks that we begin to tighten up your research question. This is what we were talking about earlier, Latasia, I'm sorry, in our meeting. How we're going to measure the variables. So hear me out, Diamond Thomas. You have to think about, how are you going to measure educational development? 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 Latasia, you have to speak to, how are you going to measure mental health? How are you going to measure mental health? How are you going to measure mental health? How can we put a number and say that this kid is more depressed than this kid? Deja, you found that research question yet? Tell me.
What social factors best explain and predict the rate of depression in the African American community?
Okay, good. Say it for me one more time. Sorry.
What social factors best explain and predict the rate of depression in the African American community?
Okay, good. So hers are more open. She hasn't picked any specific variables yet, but that question factors. We're going to find out which variables have an impact. Now, your hypothesis is what, Deja? Your hypothesis does include some variables, if I recall. What's your hypothesis?
The social factors that best explain and predict the rate of depression is the African American community are financial stability, family disruption, physical abuse, and death of relative.
Good. So we're going to have to measure physical abuse. We're going to find a way to measure the impact of death of a relative. What was another variable? What was another factor? Financial stability. We're going to have to find a way to measure that. And I feel very confident, Deja, that in most of these cases, there's research that will give you guidance on how to measure that. You ain't going to have to figure it out by yourself. You're going to have to start digging into some of these sources, though, and look at how they're measuring it. You can just type in your keyword, Diamond, measures of educational development, measures of educational development, measures of educational development. I don't see you writing them down. So keep these things in mind. This is really important. And that's the hardest part, but that's a part that you won't have to go through by yourself. And then you're hypothesizing the correlation and the strength of your relationships and the statistical significance. Latasia, what's your hypothesis again? What's your hypothesis, Latasia? You there?
Teens who are adopted at birth are 10 times more likely to have a mental illness than teens who were raised by their birth parents.
Good. So the correlation is that adopted children are going to be more depressed, but then she gave you the strength of the relationship. They're 10 times more likely. Good. Again, so we know, for example, that that women on average make 77% of what a man makes in America for doing the same work. Again, it's not just enough for us to explain the relationships, but how strong is it? Are you twice as likely to die if you get COVID when you're this age? What's your likelihood if you get it and you have these health conditions? But we want to be able to specify our test for spuriousness to ensure that it's not really the adopted families that's causing the depression, but it may be something else within that we want to look at. And again, our research is going to help us explore this more deeply. So again, false criteria, again, there's no such thing, Deja, as complete causation. This would mean, Ashaya, that there's one reason that explains all of these behaviors and cases. You almost never see that. Now, there are some things where, Deja, we're 99.9% sure. So smoking cigarettes is highly correlated with getting lung cancer. But it's not complete causation. Why? It ain't complete causation. Why? Because there's some people that smoke a gang of cigarettes that never get lung cancer. And if it's complete causation, every time that people smoke cigarettes at a certain limit, they're going to get lung cancer. I talked about the correlation between marijuana and appetite. There are probably some people, again, that Diamond probably be getting high and she don't even get the munchies. There are exceptions. So again, what we're stating in our research, Diamond, is what happens in the majority of cases. What happens in the majority of cases? We cannot say it never snows in Columbia. Even though it's a dope track, it's a dope track, Deja. We can't say it never rains in Southern California. It's very rare, but it do sometimes. Again, we got numbers on this. So the majority of cases, children who aren't supervised are more likely to become delinquent than those who are supervised. Keep in mind how we began, right? Where we talked about that children who are who come from single parent households are more likely to become juvenile delinquents. We got to be more precise with our wording, Nashaya. If they come from a single parent household, but there's actual supervision, the supervision doesn't always have to come from the parent itself. In Black communities in particular, whether you come from a single parent or two parent household, it really do be taking a village, Lutasia. I grew up in a nuclear household. I wasn't just raised by my parents. All types of people played a part. So to only say, to only look at family structure, that doesn't really give us the full information. That if you're in a single parent household, but you're coming home and there's supervision and structure there, that's different from a kid who comes home and ain't no parent coming home to 11, 12 o'clock at night. That's very different. Again, we want to be very precise with our language. A couple more things before we go for the day. A necessary cause and sufficient cause. Again, keep in mind what we're trying to do here, Nashai, is design our research to make sure that we're trying to explain why something happens, and we can be sure that it's because of these factors as opposed to others. So a necessary cause. Does everyone who does a pregnancy occur every time that somebody has sex? Does a pregnancy occur every time that somebody has sex? No. And thank God for that. Again, I know that we're all virgins here, saving ourselves for that special someone. I know I am, Latasia. But we are at least aware of sex to know that that's generally how it may work. If there are people that are quite deliberately trying to have a child sometimes, I've known couples that have been like that, and it may not work out. However, what is for somebody to be pregnant, what is a variable that they have to be? What's one variable that they have to have for a human being to be pregnant? What's one variable that they have to have?
You have to be a female.
Excellent. Thank God for that one. Whole lot less babies, Nashaya, if men can get pregnant, dog. I'm like, wait a minute, what got to come out of my stomach? Oh, hell no. Some big dude the size of Shaq is coming out of another human being, man. Yeah, y'all get props for that. Y'all can have that one. But Deja's right. A necessary cause of pregnancy is you have to be a female. But obviously, not all women who have sex get pregnant. But to get pregnant, you got to be a woman. At least, again, science is changing all the time, Deja. So maybe one day it may evolve. And there was this hilarious episode of The Cosby Show where they woke up and men could get pregnant. Yeah, it was a frightening episode, quite frankly, even as a small child. So maybe the science changes at some point. But right now, that is a necessary cause. However, for that woman to be able to get pregnant, you also need to have sufficient cause, certain variables or conditions present in play for that to happen. Your textbook does a really good job, again, of really kind of breaking this down and giving you diagrams for this. As Deja had talked about, again, being a female is a necessary cause. Again, a necessary cause. It must be present. You have to have ovaries for that to take place. However, as we talked about, not all females are obviously going to get pregnant, even if they're attempting to. So there's some sufficient cause. So again, you all probably know this better than me. Okay, yes, you're a female, but what are some other conditions that will be required? Some other conditions, factors, or variables that need to be in place for the pregnancy to actually occur? What are some other variables that need to be in place? Don't overthink this. What are some other variables that need to be in place? Come on, women. Some of this stuff y'all know, you know way better than me. Y'all ain't got to get too graphic with it or nothing, but you know, talk to me scientifically.
Is it a woman being fertile, right, or no?
Good. Yes, absolutely. So there's a certain window in which that can happen, right? You know, she like, even if she's doing it when she's 13, usually that's probably going to be too soon. If she's doing this when she's 55, that's probably going to be too late. So the age is going to be one factor. What are some others? Good. Any others?
Making sure you be healthy, like keeping your hormones balanced.
Good. So other hormonal things, like again, like I know one of my guys, when him and his wife were trying to have a baby a few years back, like that was one of the things they would have to inject her with hormones and stuff to, you know, get those things in place. So, you know, and again, many other different variables related to both health and like, you know, social things and like, you know, hell, quite frankly, at some point, you know, you're going to need some semen to like, you know, be able to like, make the process, you know, really fall through. I don't need, again, I said semen, you don't even need to have the man present per se. You know, so again, like, you know, keep all these things in mind, whether we're talking about, you know, something like pregnancy, which we take for granted and which we think is just, you know, normal and natural. No, like childbirth is an amazing thing. Like it takes a lot of variables, like, you know, to be in play there for, you know, for that to work, you know, successfully. So that's true of almost anything, right? That the same way that we know that being a female alone is not going to be the only thing that is going to like, you know, allow for a pregnancy to take place. The same thing with your issues that you're studying. There's not going to be one factor that explains it. There are going to be several. Continue to read up on chapter 4. Go back and read the other chapters if you've not done so already. Latasia, make sure that you're looking at syllabus. Make sure you're looking in the syllabus. I do not assign every chapter in the book. I do not assign every chapter in the book, and I don't go in order. So again, we didn't go through chapter 3 at all. Chapter 4, again, we're on now. I think after this, I'm skipping right to chapter 8. So don't be just sitting down and reading in order. Make sure that you see the syllabus and see where you should be at in it and get there as quickly as possible. I hope that some of you all will be reaching out to schedule Zoom meetings so we can go through the next stage of your research. I hope that you've been able to gather some additional sources beyond those that we talked about so far. I'll be very disappointed if you don't have at least 15 when we meet on Tuesday. You all have a wonderful, if there are no further questions, you all have a wonderful weekend. Wait, Nashaya, hold tight for 1 second.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Dr. Muhammad, one of the articles you sent me, I don't got access to it.
Okay, follow up, like, do you have access to the abstract? Can you look at that?
No, like when I clicked on it, it was like access denied. Like I can't look at. No.
Okay. All right, we'll see if we can get it through the library service. If not, just keep digging and I'll put that to
Yeah,
the
I tried that, but I was just gonna find it.
Okay, yeah. See, okay, for sure.
Okay.
I don't think you'll have much trouble finding a bunch of sources on that topic. So no harm, no foul.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Thomas. So Nashaya, why are we having such trouble reading emails? I don't understand.
Oh, I didn't know what you meant by that. I was kind of like, you know, sort of confused. So my fault about that.
It's all good. But like, so there's going to be one email thread that we communicate in. And the purpose and benefit of that is going to be, you're going to do your research in different phases. And it's important that you are able to go back and look at what you've done before and what you need to correct and revise. So all that information will be there for you. And it'll make it easier for me to assess your work as well. So please go into that single thread. It says social research Nashaya Hicks. It's going to say that all semester. All you got to do is search for the email and you'll be able to find it very quickly.
Because usually
the case will be sent through there. So reach out to me through that email thread and we'll get you on the schedule, okay?
Okay, and I apologize for that. It's just that like usually I'll be deleting messages, like emails. So that's why I said that was my fault.
No, it's all good. I wanted to talk to you and make sure we got clarity. And again, like I said, if I don't want this to be too much for you in terms of the workload and everything. Like if you're gonna stay in this class, you got to be ready to grind. But I do worry about whether or not you should maybe wait a year or two. But if you're gonna stay, just be ready to grind and read it. And you got to follow directions. You got to follow the directions very closely.
Yes, sir. And I also find the resources I was going to send to you.
Okay, for sure. Yes, please send those to me as soon as you possibly can.
Yes, sir. And I'm going to the writing, and I'm going to the writing center. So I feel like,
I think that's an excellent idea. We're going to speak more on that sometime next week, and I'm probably even going to have them do a presentation for the class. But I'm glad to see that you're taking advantage of those resources. Keep doing that. Send me that bibliography as soon as you can.
Yes, sir.
And we'll continue to work forward.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Now, thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Peace.